Hey guys, welcome to the 2019 Go-Kart Championship, a yearly championship I hold between myself and a couple of friends and family, and we are back for another brand new season and a very exciting 2019 season. So before we jump into the first round of the season, I want to talk through the new point system we've got for the 2019 season going onwards, because you may have noticed over the last couple of years we go to a various amount of tracks, and the amount of track time you get at those particular tracks does vary. So giving the same amount of points for a race that's 3 minutes to one that's 15 was a little bit unfair. So we've changed up the point system so that it's a bit more representative of how much track time you get. So Filching Manor races either 5 or 7 minutes long, and the points are like that. And we typically have 3 or 4 races. Bayford or Lyd, we typically have 2 races, and at Brooklands we typically have 6. So the points, they somewhat relate to that. So if you add them up together, they pretty much all go to the same end goal. So it means it's very fair. Depending on which one you go to, you'll still get the same amount of points if you won all the races. So that's what we're trying to do, make it as fair as possible. So for the first round of the season, we are back at the traditional home of the Go-Kart Championship, Filching Manor, and I'm excited to get into this one straight away with qualifying. So we had 4 people here today. We have myself and Tom, who are battling out for the last couple of championships. We have John and also George. So it's looking like it's going to be a very exciting first round of the season. Unfortunately, my dad could not make this round, which was obviously a bit of a shame considering he has had some success in the championship, finishing second place in 2014, 2016 and 2018. But unfortunately, he could not be with us here for the first round of this season, which is of course going to dent his chances of another top 3 championship position at the end of the season, because we are expecting grids of 6 or 7 for quite a lot of the rounds this year, which is going to be very exciting. So qualifying, of course, always a very close affair, and the battles will probably see out on track today. We've got myself versus Tom. That's been the sort of championship battle over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, a couple of times Tom has not been able to make every round, which has somewhat dented his chances of going for the championship. But the one year that we did do every single round each, it was really close. Only, I think, 15 points in it by the end of the season, which was, a race win at the time. So very close. So we started off with a very exciting qualifying session here. I just pipped Tom to pole position. There's a couple of tenths of a second in it, and that got me 5 points to go at the top of the championship straight away. And then we had, obviously, Tom in second place. John just got ahead of George, who's in at the greatest of qualifying and finishes in P4. So here we are. First race of the season. I've won the last 5 championships in this Go-Kart Championship. Can I make it a 6th this year, or will Tom take the challenge to me? I'm excited to see what happens here. So we're going to be looking to the lights in a second here. 5-minute races here at Filching Manor, as we were doing 4 here today. It's going to be exciting to see as we look to the lights here. Slightly wet track on the inside here. Is that going to affect my start? Lights out, and away we go for the first race of the season. I don't get a particularly great start on the inside here, but it's good enough right now as we head down to the first corner. Who's going to lead? It looks like it's going to be myself on the inside line who takes the lead into the first corner. Tom is in second place. John is in third place, who's battled off George, who currently sits in 4th place. They're exciting stuff in the first couple of corners. On board with John here. Of course, he won the 2018 Winter Championship. A fantastic couple of rounds from him there to put him on the top of the Winter Championship, which is very exciting for him. And he'll be looking to try and replicate some of that form throughout the main 2019 season. But, you know, he's got a championship on his back now. John knows he can do it. He's going to try and replicate that over the whole season now. So up to the top hand corner once again. I've got myself leading Tom. John's fallen back maybe a second, and George hasn't had the best of laps there. He's fallen quite far back, currently sitting there in P4. But nonetheless, everything can change. We're only 1 minute into this race here, and exciting stuff has already been happening. It's very close out front here as John is trying to put the pressure on us in the top 2 positions here, but he's not quite close enough, unfortunately. And George is just a bit too far back. He's not going to be able to probably challenge for a podium from there, but it looks like there's some close stuff going out front. I'm trying to block off Tom here from John's camera view. You can see that just in front here. It's side by side up to the top hairpin. John isn't really close enough to compete right now, but you can see there's a battle out front, and he's going to be hopefully trying to take some of the spoils if anything does happen just down in front there. So John sitting pretty in third place here. So on board with Tom now, obviously the runner-up in 2017, the person who's put the most pressure on me for a championship over the years of the Go-Kart Championship. So it's going to be very exciting to see what he can do this season. Well, I know he's very quick. He knows that we're pretty much the same speed level as well, so it's going to be exciting to see over this whole season who can come out on top here. So very close up to the top hairpin, swinging through the complex of corners. I was struggling with a bit of an understeering car here. I was struggling a little bit, I'm not going to lie guys. I didn't particularly feel at home with the kart in this round of the Go-Kart Championship, and Tom was all over me here looking to go for the overtake, and he's got the overlap down the inside here. Is he going to back out of this? It's side by side through the first main corner, but no, he doesn't quite go through it. He backs off as I try to just about defend off the line here. So up to the top hand corner. Is he going to get to go for it? No, he isn't. It's close. It's very close. I made a slight mistake. A bit of understeer mid-corner has put me a bit wide. John is falling quite far back at this point. He's probably about 5 seconds back, and George hasn't had a particularly good start to this race here. We did have the onboard footage from him, but for some reason the footage corrupted, which was a massive shame. But nonetheless, back on board here for the battle for the lead of this one. This has seemed to be a very close, exciting battle. I think somewhat proves you only need 2 people for a good motor race. And look how close it is up to the top hairpin once again. On the brakes, Tom's a little bit later as he takes the wide line through the corner. A bit of mid-corner understeer once again from myself, and this was the corner I was particularly struggling. You can see I just go wider and wider and wider through there. I'm really struggling. I can't really go, and Tom's trying to go on the outside through there. It doesn't quite work out, but that's very brave to try and go for an overtake through there. And once again, just understeer mid-corner. I'm really struggling with the front grip in this kart, but Tom can't quite get through just yet. There's a bit of contact there, only a touch, but Tom is now side by side with me. I see that he's got the inside line. I probably could have cut him off to the inside, but it was a bit risky to do that in the braking zone, and Tom takes the lead of this race there. Good stuff from him, a fantastic move. He put the pressure on me and took the overtake in there. So on board with myself now, trying to put the pressure on Tom. Of course, trying to look to defend my title here. I had a really good 2018 season. I took quite a lot of victories. I wanted to try and replicate that in 2019, but it doesn't look like it's going to be so easy here as we're back on board with myself. Up the top corner, the hairpin. Tom's defending the inside line. I just don't quite seem to have it up there, and oh, Tom makes a bit of a mistake through there, but this is the part of the track where I'm really struggling with my go-kart here. I just can't seem to get it nailed through here, and as Tom's taking the defensive lines, it's kind of helping me out because I know I'm really slower at this point. To be honest, I was struggling. I was really struggling. I was looking over there to see John, and you can see I've sort of fallen back from Tom here. This is the furthest between the 2 people we've had here in the opening part of this race here, and he's not defending, or is he defending? He's put a bit of a move to the inside, and is that raindrops on the camera? We've got some water on the camera there. Not sure whether that's just hitting a tyre or whether that is well, actually rain coming down. We don't know just yet here. Tom taking a slightly wide line through there, but it's working out from him. It looks like we're going to be going to the last lap of this race, and Tom is probably going to be taking the first victory of the season as we go up to the start-finish line. This is the last lap here. Tom going across there, and there's definitely rain coming down. You can actually hear it. The rain is starting to come down this last lap of the race here. Can I take something from this? Tom isn't defending the top hairpin, but you can see he's certainly sliding around a little bit more here. The rain is coming down the last lap, which is exciting stuff. Not really what you want as a driver, but it's exciting stuff nonetheless. But around the last corner, I think Tom's going to take it. He's going to take the first win of the season and lead the Go-Kart Championship, is he? Actually, no, he's not because of the points of pole position. But nonetheless, close across the line, and a really good race to end off there, or start off the season, I should say. Tom takes the win, the first win of the season. I was second. John finished third. George finished 4th after a bit of a lackluster performance there. George knows he can do better than that, so he'll be looking to try and capture a better result in the next 3 races. So there we are. There's the points. Obviously, you get from 1st to 10th there. 15 points for Tom, 12 points to myself. A bit annoyed to lose the victory there after starting on pole position, but I think it was pretty clear Tom had the pace, and he probably would have qualified on pole position if he had had a bit longer in qualifying, but it was only a short session there. So exciting stuff to start the Go-Kart Championship. I put it on pole, but then Tom redeemed himself and put it into the victory for the first race of the season. So on board myself here in the same go-kart, looking to the lights. John is also sitting there ready to try and take a good result here. He knows he can probably do a bit better than he did in that first race here. I'm not really sure what I can do out of this one. I'm a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie. The rain has obviously come down a little bit in between the sessions towards the end of that last one as well. So what are the track conditions are going to be like here as the lights go out, and away we go here for the second race of the season. This time I get the better start. It's pretty evident the left-hand side of the grid is much drier, and I'm way into the lead already. I think the second position on the grid is actually better, to be fair. A lot of of the times you'd actually prefer to start second than first. And nonetheless, George has got ahead of John in the opening corner of the race. He normally gets a better start. As we go on board with John, George has got a bit sideways here. For some reason, George takes the shallow line into the corner, which always means he washes out wide. And there's a bit of side-to-side contact here, losing them time. John trying to get the switchback, is he? It's close stuff here, but George is going to have the straight line speed advantage. He is very light, and you can see that he rockets off into the distance here. He just needs to maybe get used to his racing lines a little bit, and that's going to definitely help him out in the future. But up to the top, hairpin once again, I'm leading. But as always, Tom is right behind me. George pulled out a bit of an advantage on John, and John's going to be a bit frustrated with that one here. But on board with Tom, he's going to try and regain the first position that he started this race in. He's going to be looking to grab the 15 points once again. It's very close as we go side by side up to the start finish line once again. Who's going to take the lead? It looks like it's going to be Tom. He's down the inside and he's taken the lead of this one. A fantastic move there from Tom, but up to the top hairpin. What's it going to be into the braking zone? I've switched it back. I'm down the inside, but I wash out a bit wide. It's a bit of contact side by side as we go through here. Who's going to come out of this corner out on top as I run wide once again? It's still side by side as we go into the left-hander. I've just got the inside line, get the overtake done. Fantastic stuff. I don't know how that worked out, but wow, back into the lead this one. Very exciting lap there, side by side for at least half of it, but I'm back into the lead, which is good for myself here as we're going back on board here with John, still trying to reclaim third position from George. So exciting stuff here. John, he knows he hasn't got the straight line speed on George, so this is going to be an interesting battle between here. A bit of a David versus Goliath in the way. George has got the straight line speed in a straight line, but he's not so good through the corners. John is going to be looking to grab that third position here. I think any chance of the victory is kind of gone because of getting so far stuck behind, and there's a bit of a sideways moment from George, and that's side by side once again. John must be very, very annoyed trying to get past George here. It must be a very tough thing for him because I think John does know he is quicker. He's got the outright speed as George gets a massive slide through there. The wet conditions coming into play somewhat there, but the battle for the lead is still as intense here. It's getting a bit darker. You can see that there. The camera is somewhat dark in comparison to what was in the first race, which is interesting to see. That exciting times for this race. Are we going to see another rain shower? That could really mix it up here. So we've got just under half of this race remaining, and John has, I think, finally managed to complete the move on George. It's taken him long enough, but he's actually got it done now, finally. So good stuff there from John, but he's defending the inside line. I think he knows George is going to be coming up for attack around the outside. He hasn't managed to make it stick, though. John finally regains third place there, but he's going to have been annoyed to, I guess, lost so much time in that battle there, because I think he realises the speed over George is there, at least over a race distance. George's one lap speed is pretty good, to be fair now. He's definitely getting there, but that consistency over a race distance is somewhat to be desired right now, so that's something for George to work on over this season. So as we got to the top hairpin once again on board with John, we can see just on the right hand side of the screen as you see us flashing through the right hand side there. It's a battle for the lead that's still very, very close. It's going to be exciting to see who comes out on top up there. But there is rain once again falling here. I saw a bit. You can definitely see it. There's some landing on the lens right now. So is John going to be able to capitalise here? Is there going to be a move for the lead of this race? Can John, who's so far back now from the opening two, can he somehow get the victory? That'd be really, really exciting to see. We've got just over a minute remaining here as the battle for the lead is still just as intense, and we'll switch back to that battle in a second there, but we're just highlighting here on board with John what the conditions are like, so that's really interesting to see. So back on board with myself here, we've got just under a minute remaining. This could be coming up to the last lap of the race. I think it actually might be because we're less than a minute remaining. No, we've got one more to go after this, and you can see the rain is coming down on my camera lens as well. And I should note actually I really appreciate Olfi, an action camera company, sending out this action camera for us for our university project. We really appreciate that, and you can see the quality of it is fantastic considering it's a £100 action camera. It records in really good quality 2.7K, so if you're looking to invest into an action camera, I would genuinely recommend this. It is obviously much lower price than a GoPro, and providing pretty much the same quality. So if you want to help out a startup company, help them out and give them some feedback, there will probably be a link in the description down to the Olfi website. Nonetheless, we'll focus back on the battle now as the footage captured from the Olfi camera is providing the leading battle right now. I've just got a couple of corners to go to start my first victory of the season. As we come around the last couple of corners, I'm really happy with this one. the rain started to come down, and I think the advantage started to show. I pulled out a gap to Tom over the last couple of laps. It wasn't much, but it was enough to secure my first victory of the season and, consolidate a good points finish and take back a 5-point lead in the championship. As John crosses the line, a bit disappointed with that one. Getting stuck behind George definitely wouldn't have helped him out, but nonetheless, some more important points on the board for John, and that's what he's going to need over this season. So there's the race results. Nearly the same as last time. A swap around between myself and Tom, but John still third place. George finished in fourth, and of course you see the points once again, 15 down to 2 for the top 10 points finishers. But as I said already, 5 points obviously separating myself and Tom. The only points separating us are now the points between the pole position and not having the pole position. So, stuff like that's going to really throw up a bit of a change in the championship. Who's going to be scoring those points for the pole position or fastest laps? That could honestly decide a championship. You've seen championships decided by less. So that's going to be exciting times. So third race of the day now. Exciting times here at Filching Manor. The rain, I think, has even continued on throughout that race. We've really had a mix of conditions here today. As the lights are out, away we go. A pretty similar start this time. I think the rain coating now the majority of the track has helped me from pole position get a slightly better start. So I'm thankful of that, because let's be perfectly honest, I thought I was going to struggle. But up to the first corner, you can see it's close. John has had a pretty bad start here, but George has spun it. George had a great start, but he spun it and he's stuck on the grass there, which is gutting for George there. He had a really good start there. And Tom has spun it as well. Oh wow, the first lap of this race, drama going on everywhere we've looked. 2 spinners, first lap of the race here. Tom spins it around, but has lost a lot of time here, and that's left me in a pretty good position here in the lead of this race here to come out of this first round of the championship with good points. And George still trying to get pushed out of the way, so George is nearly going to be lapped by the end of this one. The marshal doing a fantastic job to get there in time, and as you can see, I'm coming around here to lap George already. We're only on the second lap of the race. George has only completed a couple of corners, but John in a somewhat surprising second position right now. He's going to take it. It's not exactly how he would have wanted to get second position, but he'll take it. I'm doing the switchback manoeuvre on George down the inside, or down the outside I should say, really, and we've got the mover done on there on George, and that's good. That's got us into the lead and got past George pretty quickly here. So exactly what I wanted. The slippery conditions, you can see that's the reason why both George and Tom spun, is they probably didn't quite understand how slippery it was. I was being a bit tentative on the first lap of this race here, and the racing lines are a bit all over the place at this point because, well, the rainy conditions is throwing it up here. I'm learning as I go, and the rain is still coming down, so it's getting ever wetter as we drive around. So, providing caution around the whole track. You can't be too silly here. I don't want to throw away this victory. I don't want to give John a victory through a silly mistake of mine. And you can see John not doing a terrible job whatsoever here. He had a bad start, and if he didn't have such a bad start, he might not be too far behind me in the lead this race. The rain is definitely a leveller, and John is very good in the rainy conditions. So John is now coming up to the catch up to the back of George. This is to put a lap on him. This is not for an overtake. George is not in second position here. He's nearly a lap down on John. He's already been lapped by myself, and John needs to get past him ASAP. And with George's strange lines, this is not going to be great for John as he's looking to the inside. Tom, because of this little kerfuffle, is going to get past, is he? No, there's a bit of contact there. Tom hits the back of George and gets down the inside of both of them, or does he? No, because George goes back past. Fantastic from George, even though he's getting lapped. I shouldn't really be saying fantastic because, as a leading driver, you don't want to get unlapped by someone. But Tom gets past John and gets past George in the same corner. Fantastic job there from Tom. Opportunistic as he always is to get back second position there, and his pace was absolutely on it. He had that spin early on, but I think no doubt towards the end of this race he was the quicker driver out of him and myself. I mean, I wasn't going 100% because of the conditions, but at the same time I think Tom was going to be inevitably quicker, and John is still stuck behind George. This must be so infuriating for him. He definitely has the weight disadvantage in comparison to George. I mean, everyone does, but George is incredibly light, which means he's very quick in a straight line. The racing craft isn't quite there yet, but it's definitely getting there, and George is enjoying himself, and he's getting quicker all the time. But John is struggling to get past here. He's not trying to be too aggressive here. I feel like he probably could have forced the error, and could he go down the inside here? No, because George is once again going to have a good run through the last corner. That's actually a very good line through there for the last corner for George, but he completely misses the apex and runs wide. So John surely can be forceful on the brakes here. Which side's George going to take? John goes to the inside line. Is he going to put George off? They're side by side. And John, I think he's done it. Respectful racing from the two of them there. In these sort of conditions, you know, leaving that much room is tough. But that's cost John like half a lap. He's lost so much time because of being stuck behind George there. And that must be a bit gutting for John, because he knows that, to be honest, he had the pace to finish second. After after Tom's spin at the start of this race, if John just put in consistent lap times, he was going to finish second place in this race. But because he got stuck behind George for so long, that's unfortunately it. He's not going to get second position, and it looks like it's going to be a victory for myself. It looks like once again Tom's going to be second, if not a bit more distant this time, but it's not that far behind considering his spun. You just saw him on the right hand side of the screen there. John will have to come home in P3, and then P4 will be George one lap down. But I was happy with my pace here. It wasn't fantastic, I'm not going to lie. I'm still struggling with the go-kart. I'm using some drivers' excuses here up to the start-finish line to cross the line and grab a victory. I was still struggling. The wet conditions didn't help, but that's motorsport and that's the way it goes. But overall, a really interesting race. I'm a bit gutted for John. I'm really gutted for John here. He didn't deserve to lose all that time there, and I just wish that he maybe could have done a bit better in getting past George and getting the second position. That would have really helped him out in the championship overall. But he'll come across the line in P3, and I think he'll take that after getting stuck behind George for so long. So, the results after that race, as we've seen, myself winning, Tom second, John third, and George in fourth place, one lap down. So, another exciting one. Not the closest racing in that one. I think the conditions somewhat played into that. Of course, Tom making that error early on meant that I just needed to be somewhat consistent to pull it home. And to be fair, Tom's pace was so good in the latter half of that race. Maybe John might not have been able to have kept that position. But I suppose if he went on the defensive lines, it might have worked out for him. But nonetheless, Tom brings home second. He'll take that for the championship after a spin. He needs the points, that's for sure. And on board with John here. Last races of the day. Exciting times. No reverse grid here. I think it was forgot to be mentioned, but I wish it was the reverse grid. Reverse grid always exciting. But you can see in the 5 or 10 minutes between the last race and this one, the rain has dissipated and the sun's come out. We really had all weather conditions here today. As we look to the lights, away we go. You can see a little bobble from me as I try and get the kart moving. And up to the first corner. Side by side between myself and Tom. John, you can see the weight disadvantage from his side really doesn't play into his hands. And through the first corner, you see how much lighter it is here. And John manages to stay ahead of George, which is massively helping him. On board with Tom, he knows he's got the pace to win here today. He was, in my opinion, as the driver he was battling against for the majority of this, he was the better driver. And, you know, I was a bit gutted for him that he had to spin in the last race, because I honestly felt it was going to be a really close battle. Of course, I'll take the points for the victory, but I always look for a close battle. I'm not just saying that, I always prefer a close battle rather than a victory by like 20 seconds. But it's close between the top two, and it's close between third and fourth, as George, maybe now that the dry conditions are coming to their own, he's starting to do a good job here. George staying right behind John. So the battle for the lead is intense. I know I've got Tom right behind me here. I'm defending as much as possible here because I'm going to the inside line. I know Tom's a bit quicker here today, so I'm doing my best to defend on the brakes in these weird conditions, like slippery, somewhat wet in some areas. You know, it's a bit all over the place, and it's exciting to drive in these conditions because it's unpredictable. It's not really what you want as a driver at the time, but looking back at it, it makes for exciting footage. As I've run a bit wide here, is that going to leave Tom to go down the inside? There's a gap down the inside. Has he taken it? No, he hasn't. So, as we go on to the next lap of the race here, I go defensive once again. I look around. Where's Tom? There he is. We cut to his camera right at the right time as we go through the top-hand corner. Tom taking the wider line, the better approach through the corner. It's very close through here. You see, once again, I'm washing out wide. I'm struggling in the go-kart, defending into the next corner, having to back off a little bit more on the brakes. Once again, I'm going to run wide. Yes, I am. The car just struggling through there, and me struggling inside the go-kart. So, up to the start-finish line, looks like Tom is going to take the lead here, or is he going to run wide? Am I going to get the switchback like I did earlier? Up to the top-hand corner? No, I haven't. I haven't managed to do it this time. Tom is leading this race up to the top hairpin, and it looks like Tom is going to do a fantastic job of taking the lead. And is he going to rocket off into the distance now, or am I going to be able to put the pressure on him? Because of my struggles with the go-kart, I'm doing my best to take some different lines now, but you can see the advantage Tom has. He's pulling out a couple of kart lengths, and especially out of that corner there. Yeah, the understeer through the corner really hurting me there. The front tyres not gripping as much as I'd like, really hurting me through those long right corners. And up through here once again, I'm just struggling. You can see the gap is opening up. And I don't think I've got an answer to Tom here. He's got the pace. I can't get close enough. And John is having a good battle with George here. They're having a fantastic little battle at the back here. I wish we did have George's camera. I hope, I'm a bit gutted that the footage sort of corrupted, because there was a really good battle between the two of them. They've lost a lot of time in these early stages, and that's mostly because John was defending like crazy from George, because of course George taking the strange lines through the corners, but then very quickly in a straight line, means that John is having to be defensive on occasions. But here, John leaves a gap and he goes for the apex, which is brave considering George is right behind him here. But I don't know whether George is quite close enough to go for an overtake here. And John sees us go across the start-finish line there. He'll probably be a little bit disappointed with his race pace, I'm not going to lie. It wasn't the greatest here today. He probably could have done better. I tried to do a bold move down the inside of Tom. If anything, that was to try and put him off a little bit there, because I didn't know... I knew that I was no way going to get overtake done there. But I was trying to put him off and just sort of let him know I am here, and try and, get into his head a little bit here. So I think it worked, because I gained some time on this lap thanks to that, audacious look down the inside, and Tom is definitely going to know I'm there now, and he's going to defend. I think he didn't quite defend as much as he should have done, and that's the reason why I wanted to feint move down the inside. But to be perfectly honest, Tom is still quicker when taking the tighter line than I am when taking the normal line, so it's sort of a lost cause to me, really. I'm struggling all of today, and I know I'm just bringing out all of the excuses, but Tom was just flat out quicker than me here today, and I have to take that on the chin and hopefully go into the next race weekend and do a bit better. That's my aim. So once again, down the back straight, last lap of this race. Unless I can get a good move done here, it looks like this is going to be the race over for me in terms of the race victory. Up to the top hairpin, trying to cut back to the apex, doesn't work out. Through the next sort of switchback of corners once again. Looks like Tom is going to take the victory. It looks like it's going to be 2 victories apiece in the first round of the season, 4 races. Are we going to lap George here on this last lap of the race? It's close. It is close, but I don't think it's going to be the case. Across the line we go. Tom wins. I'm second place. On board with John here. He won't be too happy with the pace here today. He knows he's got more pace within himself here. In my opinion, he was obviously a little bit... I guess he wasn't quite aggressive enough in the third race to get past George, but at the same time maybe he didn't have the pace to beat Tom overall, because Tom was flying in that race in that third one. So John crosses the line. Probably he'll be happy with all those third places here today. He'll take it, because obviously my dad not racing here today would have helped him out in the championship. He's obviously got a significant lead now. He'll have 40 points, whereas my dad has 0, and they're the sort of 2 close ones in the championship here. It's myself versus Tom, and John versus my dad. So that's going to be an interesting battle here, and I think some funny things happened here as we go around the last corner here. I think George, he missed the pit entrance, we'll just say that, and he hit the tyre wall. A little bit embarrassing here, you can see on board, but nonetheless George brings home P4 and some points to go with it. But nonetheless, we're hoping for some bigger grids next time. Actually, well, it's confirmed we are going to have bigger grids. At least 6 races in the next 2 rounds, which are going to be really, really good. I'm looking forward to those battles out on track. Always should be exciting. So there we are. Tom takes the victory. I was second, then that one. John finished third. George finished 4th. And the points, obviously, you see 15 down to 2 for the top 10. So exciting times here for the championship. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season goes. I think it's going to be a really close championship throughout. I've scheduled it around Tom so that we ensure that he gets to all of the rounds, because I don't want him missing any this year, because obviously it might look like I'm just getting the championship because of that. But I think last year I genuinely had the speed. I was quicker through sort of 95% of the season, so I think I deserve that championship wholeheartedly. But this season I want to make sure that Tom gets to every single round, because he missed quite a few last year. So there are the championship standings. So the mixed bag for the top two there. The only point separating us are those 5 points for the pole position that you see in the bold italics in the race 1 section. Tom obviously getting a first, 2 seconds and a first, like myself. John getting 4 third places. George getting 4 fourth places. Some close battles in there between the two of them, but overall it's going to be an interesting battle throughout the whole season. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you had a fantastic day. I look forward to seeing the rest of the championship soon. It's been Alex Amadi. Goodbye.